Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading's Sunday worship service. My name is Tirza Mason, and I'm a member of Worship Arts Team. My pronouns are she and her. We choose to share our pronouns because we know something. We know that all people of all genders are whole, holy, and loved. We welcome you here today as we join together to create a space where we nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and help heal our world. If this is your first time with us, we're so happy to have you join us. Please visit our website to learn more about our beloved community. There you can connect with our staff, or for those of you who are here in the sanctuary this morning, please come to speak to any one of us you see up here on the chancel and fellowship hall after the service. If you're watching this service online during its initial broadcast at 10 a.m. on April 21st, please join us after the service for conversation via Zoom, hosted by Tom Model. If you're attending in person, please join us in fellowship hall following the presentation in the chancel, or in the sanctuary, and then afterwards for the social hour.
Thank you, Tirza. Good morning. My name is Reverend Laura Solomon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the minister here at UUCR, and it is a privilege to serve this community and the world with you. As we gather this morning, I invite you to take a breath. Allow yourself to arrive here this morning. Our opening words come from the Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt in the Velveteen Rabbi's Haggadah for Passover. She writes, "You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry, a book, a poem, a battered tin cup, your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot, possessive fist. So the dough isn't ready. So your heart isn't ready. So you haven't said goodbye to the places where you hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves you've tended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take the leap at all. And infinity is calling you forth out of this birth canal and into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise flat cakes without yeast. Learn to read new alphabets. Wear God like a cloak and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going, but you have the words of our sages, the songs of our mothers, the inspiration wrapped in your kneading bowl. Trust that what you can carry will sustain you, and take the first step out the door." Let us worship. We light our flaming chalice this morning with Unitarian Universalists all around the globe. I invite you to call into your heart the flame you kindle this morning, the flame of truth, of community, of commitment to love and justice. Tirza, will you light our chalice? Please join in our chalice lighting words, which can be found on the laminated sheets with the hymnals in your pews. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. Each week we recite our children's affirmation as a reminder of the most important elements of who we are. Jonah, please come up and help me. Ethan, please come up and help me. It's so good to see you both. We are Unitarian, Universalists, the Church of the Open Mind, the Loving Heart, and the Helping Hands. Thank you for your help. Please rise in body or in spirit. We are going to sing hymn number 104 in your gray hymnal, When Israel Was in Egypt's Land.
When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. The Lord told Moses what to do, let my people go. To lead the tribe of Israel through, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. For you the cloud shall clear the way, let my people go. A fire by night, a shade by day, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. We need not always weep and moan, let my people go. And wear these slavery chains forlorn, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
I invite anyone who would like to hear a story to come forward. Thank you. It is so good to see you. Welcome back up here, Jonah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kimberly. I am the Religious Ed Coordinator here at UUCR, and Reverend Laura and I have a story for you today.
Our story today comes from a couple different places. We used both the story of Passover from the PJ Library story called River Ride and some language adapted from the Haggadah written for Families for Ceasefire Philly.
Let's start with the Passover story. Every year on the holiday of Passover, Jewish people tell this story to remember the Jewish people's escape from slavery to freedom. Long ago, in Egypt, a mean ruler named Pharaoh made the Jewish people slaves. They were forced to do hard work, build cities and pyramids, and they weren't allowed to leave.
One of the terribly mean things that Pharaoh did was order that all the baby boys born to Jewish families be taken away. Around this time, a baby was born named Moses. Moses' mother tried to save Moses by putting him in a basket and floating him down the river. Moses' sister, Miriam, watched over him and saw that he was safe. She watched as Pharaoh's daughter found him and brought him to the palace to be raised.
Meanwhile, the Jewish people continued to be enslaved. They were hungry, tired, and had no control over their lives, which we know is unjust. They cried out to God for help.
When Moses grew up, he left the palace, and he saw a Jewish slave being treated badly. He knew this was wrong, and he knew he didn't want to be either person. He didn't want to be the enslaved person or the person doing the enslaving. So he ran away and he started a new life in a different place.
One day, Moses was herding sheep when he noticed a bush that was on fire. It was burning and burning, but not burning down. Then Moses heard a voice, which he thought was the voice of God, telling him, "Moses, your people, the Jewish people, are still enslaved in Egypt, and they need a leader like you to help them get to freedom. Go back to Egypt and tell the Pharaoh to let your people go." Can we say that? Can we say, "Let my people go"? Let my people go. Good.
The thing was, Moses didn't feel like a leader. Moses spoke with a stutter, and it was hard for him to talk to lots of people. But Moses' brother and sister, Aaron and Miriam, encouraged him to fight for justice. They went back to Egypt and told Pharaoh, let my people go. But what do you think Pharaoh said? He said no.
God saw what was happening, and God wanted to protect the Jewish people. So terrible things called plagues started happening to the Egyptians. There were frogs and animals and locusts everywhere. Everything got dark. There was hail falling from the sky. Finally, after 10 plagues, Pharaoh finally let the Jews go free.
With great excitement and nervousness, the Jews quickly packed their things and rushed out of Egypt. They went so fast that the bread they were baking didn't even have time to rise. And that's why on Passover, Jews eat a special kind of bread called matzah. That's more like a cracker because it doesn't rise and get fluffy like bread.
The Jews thought they were safe, but when they came to the sea, they could hear Pharaoh's army chasing after them, and they knew Pharaoh had changed his mind and didn't want them to be free after all. The story goes that this is when another miracle happened. The sea opened up, and the Jewish people were able to walk safely between two giant walls of water.
When the Jews were safely on the other side, the sea closed up again, and the Jewish people were free. Now at Passover every year, Jews tell this story to remember their journey to freedom. Now that we've heard the original Passover story, we're going to talk about something that is happening today.
In the Passover story, baby Moses is born near the Nile River and many years later leads his people to freedom through the Red Sea. Today, not far from where the Passover story takes place, in a place called Palestine, there is also unfairness. There are many years of conflict in this region, and some of the current conflicts include the people of Palestine being denied their basic rights like food, water, electricity, homes, and more. More than 2 million people live there, and about half of them are children.
People everywhere deserve to be treated fairly. Right now, we are particularly concerned about the rights of people in Palestine and the freedom and safety of the people kidnapped from Israel. People everywhere, regardless of religion and where they were born, deserve to live their lives safely and with freedom. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that all people should be treated fairly, and our faith calls us to work towards making this a reality. So on this Passover, we can learn from the old story to remind us about the importance of treating people in the right way and advocating for what is right. Although the Passover story is different from what is happening right now, it's helpful to look to the old stories to remember that people have the power to advocate for what is right and that all people deserve to be free. Thank you all for listening to our story. We take time during our service to light our candles of community, peace, and justice. We light our red candle of community to signify our interconnection. Wherever you are in time and space, newcomer or longtime member, here in the sanctuary or joining us virtually, we light this candle, holding you in love. I invite you to speak aloud the name or names of people who are on your mind and heart today, to bring them fully into this space. We typically light candles here, a blue candle of peace and a yellow candle of justice. But today, in honor of Passover and traditional rituals in a Passover Seder, we are going to raise a glass of wine for Elijah and a cup of water for Miriam. At a Seder, an extra cup of wine is set out for the prophet Elijah as a symbol of welcome. And Elijah is a symbol of the better world we will create together. As we raise this cup of welcome, let us welcome in the new world we are creating from this day forward. At the Seder, a cup of water is left out for Miriam, Moses' sister. It is said that when the Jews were thirsty in the desert, Miriam made a well appear and brought water for thirsty people to drink. In this time when we are fighting for justice in so many places, there are many people who do not have water, both literally and metaphorically. While we cannot magically make water appear, we are all called to be Miriam, to work together, to keep our hope and energy strong, to continue the important fight for peace, for justice, for liberation for all. At Passover, we often hear the phrase Dayenu. Dayenu means it would have been enough. The Passover Haggadah, the story read at the Passover Seder, contains a litany of blessings to be grateful for. If God had parted the sea for us but had not made us pass through on dry land, it would have been sufficient, it reads. If he had supplied our necessities in the desert for 40 years but had not fed us manna, it would have been sufficient. If he had given us the Sabbath and not brought us to Mount Sinai, it would have been sufficient. This litany serves to remind us that each step was a blessing and would have been enough. The prayer Tirza and I are about to read is called Lo Dayenu. It is a reminder that even as we who gather here today experience many blessings, there are many worldwide who still yearn for freedom. It is not enough. It will not be enough for some of us to be free. It is not enough until all of us are free. After each line, please join us in responding, Lo Dayenu. This prayer is written by Kashira Halev Fife. Let's take a breath together as we begin.
If we gather around the Seder table in joy and don't make room for tears, Lo Dayenu.
Lo Dayenu. If we tell our ancient story and don't make room for the modern one, Lo Dayenu.
If we ask the four questions and don't extend our curiosity beyond, Lo Dayenu.
If we name the 10 plagues in the Haggadah and don't consider what kinds of plagues are happening today, Lo Dayenu.
If we enjoy a Seder meal and don't at least acknowledge the many people in Gaza and beyond who are starving, Lo Dayenu.
If we say, let all who are hungry come and eat, and we exclude those whose perspectives don't match ours, Lo Dayenu.
If we acknowledge the crisis in Gaza and don't call for its end, Lo Dayenu.
If we say ceasefire now and don't uplift the need for hostage release, Lo Dayenu.
If we read about the news and don't stop to feel its impact, Lo Dayenu.
If we are active on social media and don't take action offline, Lo Dayenu.
If we commit to fighting anti-Semitism and don't commit to fighting Islamophobia, Lo Dayenu.
If we notice our fear and don't interrogate its origin, Lo Dayenu.
If we tell the story of our liberation and don't remember that it was and still is collective, Lo Dayenu.
When we believe in our freedom, for us and for everyone, and we commit to working towards it, only then will we be able to say,
Dayenu.
Amen. If you would like to light a silent candle, you are invited to come forward now. In the Haggadah, there is a passage that tells of 4 children, each with a question about the Passover story. The wise child asks the meaning of the laws surrounding the observance of Passover. The wicked child asks questions in ways that indicate they are not concerned about the laws of Passover. The simple child asks what it all means. And then there is a child who doesn't know how to ask. This passage is to remind Jews of 2 things. The first is the obligation to teach the next generation about the story of Passover and about the history of the Jewish people. And the second is that each of those children lives within each of us. It is our obligation to respond to all questions, so everyone is connected to the community and has a role to play in the evolving story of the Jewish people. One additional note. According to the Jewish calendar, which started in 3761 BCE, it is currently the year 5784. That year is mentioned in both of our readings and is referencing our current year, 2024. I invite Bob Mason forward to share our first reading.
With that context, our first reading is titled, What Should We Tell Our Children? Pesach 5784 by Rabbi Isaac Sapasnik. This year, what should we say to the wise child, the child who is paying attention, the one who is able to hold the nuance? We should tell her this is a time of stories, and she should listen carefully. We all should. Not all stories are easy to hear, but all stories are essential, imperative. And only after we listen, truly listen, can we hope for freedom and redemption. There is no hope, her brother responds. They won't allow it. Some might call him the evil child. But do we really need more name-calling in the world? We must remind this child of ours that there is no them, only us. All of us together, striving for peace, we hope. No, we know we can achieve together, even if he doesn't believe it yet. And what about the simple child, the one who doesn't know the details, but knows all is not as it should be? We should tell her that, yes, people are hurting and suffering and dying, and the angel of death has not yet passed over, but we are working as hard as we can to rid the earth of any more plagues. When do we eat? Asks the last child, the one who doesn't yet know the trials of the world. We should send this child to the door. They should be the one to throw it wide open, to welcome all those who are hungry to come and eat, all those who are weary to come and rest, and all those who seek peace to join in our Seder. Because if we can all sit together, spilling wine, finding crumbs, and singing late into the night, everything will indeed be in order.
The song we're going to sing now is called Lechi Lach, which means go forth. It was what God said to Abraham and Sarah when he sent them forth into a new land. lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi lach, to the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, lechi lach. Lechi lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Tirza. In a traditional Seder, a child will read or sing the 4 questions. The 4 questions ask, why is this night different from all other nights? They cite differences during the traditional meal and ask why they occur. Why do we dip our food in salt water? Why do we eat bitter herbs? Why do we eat unleavened bread? Why do we recline when gathering for this meal? The poem Isaac will share with us is based on these questions.
What makes this night different from all other such nights that we celebrated the same way for millennia? On all other such nights, we embraced the stranger, invited all to our table. On this night, as we gather in our narrow places, how can we not mourn the loss of our dear ones, those in captivity, those gone, those no longer our friends? On all other such nights, we spoke only of our own affliction. On this night, should we not remember all of God's afflicted children? On all other such nights, we feasted on rich food and wine without thought. On this night, how could we fail to think of those without food and our imperative to feed them? On all other such nights, we reclined to celebrate our freedom. On this night, how can we sit back as free people when not all people are free? So many questions on this night, so different from all other such nights. Infinite Ein Sof, open our hurting hearts and hard heads so that we might find the answers within.
Open our hurting hearts and hard heads so that we might find the answers within. Thank you, Isaac. Passover as a kid for me consisted of 42 relatives in the basement of my bubby's house, packed in like sardines or gefilte fish or something. I don't know how Bubby cooked for all of us. I know there were rules, like the grape juice goes in the decanter with the Band-Aid, and the wine goes in the decanter without the Band-Aid. I know she tossed the salads in garbage bags, and I know she loved doing it. Having all of her siblings, all of her children, all of her grandchildren together was a blessing reserved for Passover. The things I remember most are how Uncle Sonny, my grandmother's twin, loved teaching us songs in Hebrew. I remember the moment in the Seder when we would open the door for Elijah, and I really expected him to come in, like Santa or the Easter Bunny, except while I was awake. It was confusing being a kid who celebrated both Jewish and Christian holidays sometimes. The Haggadah we used was long and formal and repetitive. I primarily remember hoping I would get a short passage to read aloud and there would be no rabbis' names in the part I was designated to read. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eleazar, the son of Azariah, Rabbi Akiba. It was tough being an 8-year-old in Bubby's basement, trying to impress all 41 relatives with your reading skills. What I didn't understand as a child was that this ritual of the Seder wasn't just this weird exercise in seeing how well you could read in front of your great aunts. It wasn't about trying to eat foods like gefilte fish and chopped liver that were just not agreeable with my palate. The ritual of the Seder isn't even just about remembering. It's not just about telling the story, remembering the story, keeping the story alive, although that's part of it. What the Seder is about, what all stories are about, is finding ourselves in the story, both who our people were and who we are now. This is what we do as Unitarian Universalists on Christmas and Easter. We tell the stories and we find the piece that is resonant today. As Unitarian Universalists, we get to do this with any number of stories. Come back next month when we explore stories in the form of post-apocalyptic fiction and science fiction. Where are you? Who are you in those stories? Who are we? Where are we in those stories? In his book, Exodus and Revolution, political philosopher Michael Walzer reflects that the biblical story of Exodus teaches us 3 things. First, that wherever you live, it is probably Egypt. Second, that there is a better place, a world more attractive, a promised land. And third, that the way to that land is through the wilderness. I've been thinking about that phrase. Wherever you live, it's probably Egypt. The second 2 phrases, that there is a better world and that we have to find our way through the wilderness to get there, those feel like messages I might preach on any given Sunday. But if where we live is Egypt, then who am I? I'm not Pharaoh, thank God. I don't believe we're Pharaoh. Jews are telling the story from the perspective of the Israelites, those who are enslaved, those who are yearning for freedom. But here in America today, in 2024, are we the Israelites? If where we live is Egypt, I worry that I am not an Israelite, but an Egyptian. Here today in the US in 2024, I live more as an Egyptian who can survive and thrive through submitting to the oppressive systems at hand because they mostly do not impact me. Or I can risk my comfort, the simplicity and ease of my life. If we're the Egyptians in this story, Rabbi Lizzie Hademan says that we have two choices. We can follow the decrees of our rulers because we're tired, because we're not in the direct line of fire, or we can resist. The crowning moment of the Seder is always when we sing Dayenu, which Josh and Tirza will teach us in a bit. Dayenu, it would have been sufficient. It would have been enough. There are 15 verses in some versions I read, starting by saying that if the first people had been shaped in the image of God, that would have been enough. If God had taken us out of Egypt but had not split the sea for us, it would have been enough. If we had only been provided with manna, that would have been enough. But if everywhere is Egypt, then what is enough? How do I find enough? How do I do enough? How do I act, become enough? The Rabbi Marty Keller, a Jewish Unitarian Universalist minister, wrote, "The Dayenu tells us if Moses had never gone up on that mountain and brought down the Torah, it would have been enough. We can find enduring love beyond our individual egos and compassion, seeing holiness in all others." We can find enduring love beyond our individual egos and compassion, seeing holiness in all others. In spite of everything, I do believe that we, the people of this world who believe in love and justice, I believe that we are enough. And I believe that we have what we need in each other. But what about right now, this moment when we are seeing such horrific violence unfold in the Middle East? There's a resource guide published by our Unitarian Universalist Association titled "Why We Cannot Turn Away," resources for UUs engaging Palestine and Israel. Let me know if you'd like me to share this resource with you. They ask some questions that I think are helpful in encouraging us to name our place in the story. Because once we name our place in the story, then we are able to move forward into action. When we know our place in the story, it is harder for us to turn away. Some of the questions they ask as a starting point for reflection include, from your place of center, how can you hold the complexity of your own pain and the pain of others across difference, especially the difference of history, identity, or power? If we can do this as a starting point, perhaps it will be enough. From this place of center, can you hold the connection to social justice, understanding of state-based oppression, intergenerational trauma, and show up for the grief and suffering of it all? If we can use this as a starting point, perhaps it will be enough. From your place of center, how do you respond or attend to the feelings of pain or shame when harm or violence is done in your name, with your tax dollars, related to an identity or a place you feel deeply connected to? If we can use that as a starting point, perhaps it will be enough. The Jews left Egypt, not knowing if they would make it. They did not know the sea would part for them, but they left anyway. If everywhere is Egypt, can we leave anyway? We don't know where we're going, but the story was never about the destination. The story is about the journey, the leaving, the courage to say, not here, not now, not again, not on my watch. It starts there, and that is sufficient. Perhaps the next step, the next thing that will be enough, appears from there. Amen.
Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of April is Our Children's Trust. Our Children's Trust is a nonprofit public interest law firm that provides legal services to youth to secure their rights to a safe climate. Founded in 2011, they represent young people who have taken climate-related legal action against federal, state, and local governments. They have represented young people from diverse backgrounds in all 50 states and countries around the world, free of charge. Please designate your offerings accordingly, utilizing the memo line on your check, if you're using a check. Thank you. We're going to do something a little differently with the music for the offertory. We're going to be singing Dayenu, and we'll teach you the chorus before we start. We encourage you to sing with full gusto. It's the end of the Seder. Everybody is ready to eat the dessert and find the afikomen and say goodnight. So, Dayenu.
Dayenu, 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 Dayenu.
Okay, that's the chorus.
הוציאנו, הוציאנו ממצרים, הוציאנו ממצרים, דיינו, 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 us out of Egypt, only brought us out of Egypt. Had God brought us out of Egypt, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Natan lanu et Shabbat, Natan lanu et Sabbath, only given us the Sabbath. Had God given us the Sabbath, Daenu, 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 Daenu.
Thank you for that truly multi-generational music for our multi-generational service. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator, and my pronouns are she and her. If you are new or newer to our church, or even if you're not so new, you're invited to join our final offering of our UU Basics class, which we're going to hold on Sunday, May 5th after service. We'll cover traditional Unitarian Universalist basics, an introduction to our faith and your spiritual journey, as well as answer any questions that you may have about this church. This class will guide you on how to connect more deeply and know what it means to belong to this dynamic community. And we'll start with some refreshments in Fellowship Hall and then walk over to Loring House for our class that will gather and run until 1:30 p.m. So please RSVP by this Friday. You can do that in the newsletter or by talking to me. Just a reminder to all of our amazing lay leaders that the annual reports are due by May 1st, and that is so that we have our annual report prepared for the congregation for our May spring member meeting, which is Sunday, May 19th. Thank you to all of our hardworking governing board members as they prepare for that meeting. May monthly newsletter goes out this Thursday, so if you're submitting something to the newsletter, please send that in by tomorrow. And our congregational life this week, connect with yourself and fellow congregants at Buddhist meditation tomorrow evening. This week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you are reminded to bring your good condition, unneeded books for our book drive to support the youth-led nonprofit More Than Words. You can see me or the church news for times and details. And this Saturday, from 9 to noon, join your fellow congregants for our Spring Grounds Cleanup Day to help tidy up the mess that winter left behind. We're going to rake, we're going to pick up sticks, and we're going to prune. So friends of all ages, especially children, youth, and their grown-ups, are invited to participate. Come for an hour or for however long you can. And please bring your favorite gardening tools. Next Sunday, April 28th, join us for service led by guest minister, Reverend Evan Carville-Zimer, the developmental lead for the New England region of the UUA, who has been invited to do a presentation to the congregation after service at 11:30. Evan will discuss the types of ministries available and outline both the resource requirements necessary and the timeline associated with each ministerial option. And we'll need to enter the next church year with a clear understanding of the processes involved in finding our next minister. So please mark your calendars and plan to attend next Sunday. For today, grab a beverage from Social Hour and come back in to join us for a special chancel chat with our longtime member, David Ham. He'll be speaking about his grandfather, Reverend Marion Franklin Ham, who served this congregation from 1909 to 1934. And David has some fascinating things to share with us in a presentation that will probably be about a half an hour long, and then there'll be time for questions and answers.
And quite a few surprises.
And surprises. Another great offering today is offered by Tirza and Bob Mason after David's chancel chat that will be held in the offering is going to be in Fellowship Hall, where you can have a taste of Passover. So if you can't stay for the chancel chat, no worries. There'll be treats in Fellowship Hall, as well as when we break after service for our brief social hour. Thank you to Diane and Guy for serving as today's social hour hosts. And thank you to Bob and Tirza for the taste of Passover. Another thank you to all who participated in the memorial service yesterday for Ruth Goldberg. Her children have expressed their gratitude and hope that you might take home a flower with you that can be found in the atrium. Finally, thank you to today's volunteers, our ushers, Pat and Monsi, our tech team, Robin and Will, our Tom, our social hour host. Thanks to our worship leaders for a great service, and our participants, as well as our fantastic musicians. And thank you all for being a vital part of our congregational life. Now, please join us rising in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, number 210, Wade in the Water.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in white. God gonna trouble the water. The leader looked like an Israelite. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red. God gonna trouble the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red. God gonna trouble the water. The leader looks like an Israelite. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Joe. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our words of benediction come from the Reverend Deborah Hafner. The Reverend Deborah Hafner. She says, "We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should have ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land." Go in peace.